Hi, I'm Mike Simpson. I'm the creative director at Creative Assembly, and we're here on the HBO set of the Rome TV series to talk about Rome 2, Total War.
What's it like for you to be here in Rome on the set of Rome?
It's a pretty amazing place. I mean, I love the TV series, and I'm obviously a fan of all things to do with ancient Rome. So it's great to actually to be here.
When we're talking about ancient Rome, can you give us a little bit of details into what kind of research and history goes into the making of a game like this?
Okay, a game like Rome 2 takes almost years of research. If you add up all the time that we've all spent reading books and consulting various historians and basically immersing ourselves in all the content, so we can then distill that down into something that makes a game.
When it comes to Rome 2, can you also talk a little bit about some of the historical battles that people will be playing through? If you want to start with the prologue, which we were just able to get our hands on.
Okay, the game starts with a prologue, which is the early history of, more or less, just after the founding of Rome, when Rome is struggling to gain control of the whole of Italy, and that takes you through a war with the Samnites, and it's a kind of easy introduction into the game, which sort of sets up the scene for the main event, which is where you take control of Rome, or one of the other major powers of the time, and try and build a proper empire.
Can you talk about some of the different factions and powers people will be able to take control of?
So all of the major powers from that period of history are there. You can play as Rome, you can play as Carthage, you can play as Egypt, you can play as various Greek states, or you can play some of the barbarian factions, Germans or Iceni or so on. So there's plenty of choice, and they all play differently. That's the cool thing about it. It's very different playing a Roman legion army from a Parthian horse army.
Let's start with the Romans and talk a little about, from a strategic standpoint, how you go about playing as those armies. What were they known for?
Well, playing as Rome, your main power is the Roman legion. So they were based very much based on foot soldiers who were heavily armed, heavily armored, and very well disciplined. And it was the kind of Roman discipline that gave them an edge over a lot of their enemies. So really very strong infantry-based armies.
When it comes to some of the other powers you just mentioned, can you walk through some of the different attributes and powers that they have?
Yeah. So while the Roman army might be very strong with infantry, some of the Eastern armies, the Parthians, for example, are very, very strong with cavalry and archery. Romans didn't really bother with archers. They used slings, or they had slingers, and occasionally they'd hire mercenary archers. But some of the other powers at the time really focused very heavily on archery. So they have a very different style of fighting.
You guys also have some huge units out there, elephants, things like that. Talk about what that adds to the battlefield.
Yeah, so some of the really cool units are things like elephants. They're war elephants used by a number of different factions, and they can really turn the tide of a battle. They're like the tanks of the ancient world. They tear into the battlefield and sort of turn the battle at key moments.
When it comes to the historical perspective, can you walk us through the time period that this game will follow from when to when?
So we're looking at a period from a couple of hundred BC through to just 100 or 2 AD. So it kind of depends on you. This is the cool thing about Total War. We set you the start position. We take a position in history, right? But it's up to you how the game unfolds from there. It could take you many centuries to build your empire. You could do it much quicker than the Romans did in real history. So it's up to you.
And speaking of real history, what are some of the historical characters that people will interact with?
Again, because you're making your own history, the historical characters that turn up are ones that you create. So there's kind of an RPG element as well for building your generals and building your armies as well. So your armies gain skills and history to them as well, and traditions. So it is like an RPG element to it in that respect.